Welcome everyone to our video completing a basic 1040. Today we'll give you a brief introduction of the program and then we'll create and process a tax return from beginning to end. And that includes adding a new tax return to the system, the importance of the active options, using the tax estimator, completing the client data worksheet, adding forms, verifying for errors, printing, and transmitting. Now, the Crosslink line of professional tax solution enables true tax professionals and service bureaus to accurately file and prepare large volumes of tax returns. Now, our suite of products includes Crosslink Business, which we're soon integrating into our 1040 product. We have Crosslink Multi-Site Online that's 100% web-based. We also have a remote office operations utility called Management Dashboard, but for this video we're going to concentrate on our individual product, Crosslink 1040. The Crosslink 1040 was designed with intuitiveness, efficiency, and dependability as principles, and what that really means is it's easy to learn, it's easy to operate, and it's extremely fast and reliable, regardless of how many returns are in the system. In fact, during stress testings, we loaded Crosslink down with over 600,000 returns and saw no discernible reduction in speed or accuracy. We also designed this for true tax professionals. It's not a questionnaire or menu-driven program. It's a forms-based program. There's no need to wade through layers of menus or interview questions to complete a tax return. Instead, we replace that methodology with what true tax professionals really want. They want a program that's fast, that's accurate, that's dependable, and that they control rather than letting the software control them. All right, let's jump into the program. Here we are at the work in progress summary. Here's Crosslink. Now let's start our tax return, and we can do that a number of different ways. We can click on select a return, and we have an add button right here that'll get us to our add new return window. From the work in progress, we can click add new in the toolbar, and that'll take us straight to that add new return window. Or we can click add new from this return selection grid and get to the same place. Also, for those who need a W7, there's a button that's placed handily right here. But I'm just going to enter Social Security number, and that'll open up our tax return. Every time you open a tax return, you land on the client data worksheet. Complete this worksheet with the taxpayer's personal information. Information entered on this worksheet will flow to the rest of the tax return. Also notice at the very bottom of this page, we have line-by-line help. So depending on which field you're on, it'll tell you what's expected of that field. So we know we're on the date of birth field. If we look at the very bottom, we can see the taxpayer's date of birth should be entered here. So I'll enter that. I'll enter a name, a last name. And when we land on our occupations field, notice choices is lit up down here. That means we have the ability to choose information from a list. Now we can click choices and select from this list, or we can simply type the first few letters of the occupation and the program will guess what you're entering there just to help you fill out that field faster. We'll enter some phone numbers. Cell phone number. Text messaging, if we're opting in for text messaging. And now we're down here at our filing status. If you want to know what's to be entered here, remember you can always refer to our active options at the bottom of the screen. So we can see that 1 is entered for single, 2 for married filing joint, and so forth. And also it affects the tab order. So if we enter single, we know that we don't have to enter spouse information. We can simply hit tab and it'll forward us to the address. If we put in married filing joint, then it assumes we're going to enter spouse information. For now, I'm going to enter head of household. I'll enter my address here. Military information will be entered here, and we're down at our bank name. And this is another place we have choices. This is what we call a dynamic database. And what that means is any information entered directly on the form will be saved to this database for later access. So we can choose this from a list, enter our taxpayer's account number, checking or savings, and then we re-enter that information just to make sure that it's going to the right bank and the right account. It's very important this refund be directly deposited into the correct taxpayer's account. Next, we have our client referral section. This is great for those who market and want to find where their marketing is working best for them. If you've placed a Facebook ad or printed some flyers or even had a radio ad, you can enter that information here and report on it later to begin to understand what's drawing customers into your office. And then we have our dependent section. Now notice on our dependent section we have worksheets that's lit up now. This is if the taxpayer has more than 9 dependents, we can enter those other dependents on an overflow worksheet. I'll go ahead and enter a name. If the last name of the dependent is the same as the primary taxpayer, just enter the first letter and it'll fill the rest out for you. Enter a birthday and it calculates our dependent's age, our social security number, and the relationship field is another place we have choices. You can hit S for son, D for daughter, and so forth to quickly enter that information. Now we're on the MO field, and if we look below, this is the number of months the dependent lived with the taxpayer. And we can enter CN if the dependent lived in Canada, or MX for Mexico, but I'm going to go ahead and enter 12. And then notice these code sections here will fill out automatically based on the information we've entered for the dependent. So we're assuming some things here. If we look, we're assuming the dependent lived with the taxpayer, and if this is different, we can change this at any time. Our E here assumes we're eligible for EIC, and the X is an eligibility marker for child tax credit. And this last code here has to do with dependent care. Now notice over here, we don't have a 2441 added. If we mark this box and click refresh, a 2441 will be added for us. So that's just another place where we help speed up the processing of a tax return. And last but not least, we have this ST field for Idaho grocery credit. Now, one other thing I want to point out in the active options is form links, and I'm going to go to the 1040 real quick and scroll down to line 9A. Now notice on this line we have form links. Now you can click on form link, you can hit Control L on your keyboard, or you can double click on the field to be linked to that form and brought directly to the field that needs attention. That's another spot that we help speed up the processing of a tax return. Now that we're done entering the information on the client data worksheet, we want to add our primary source forms, our W-2s. So in the toolbar on the left, we'll click Add Form, and it'll bring us to our All Forms and Schedules window. Now notice we land on the W-2 because that's the most commonly added form. If we want to search for a specific form, simply just type the name, C for Schedule C, and it'll jump straight down to that. A for Schedule A, 8867, and so forth. If you don't know the name of a form, click on the Index tab at the top, and now you can enter a description of the form. So I'll enter child, and it'll jump us down to the 2441 and the child section. Education will get us to a section about education. Also notice at the top we have a state tab, so if you want to add state forms, you can do that from here as well. But I'll add a W-2, and it jumps us to the employer identification number. Now this is another dynamic field that connects to our employer identification database. Any information entered here will flow to that database so you can access it later. So I'm going to quickly grab one of these. Notice it fills out our information here for us. And I'll enter a wage. And when I hit tab, lines 3, 4, 5, and 6 will be filled in for us. Enter withholding. And notice over here in our attached forms list, when we refresh, that is calculated for us. And it's green if it's a refund and red if it's a balance due. State information will be entered below, and it's just that easy. Now that we've entered our source documents, we're ready to verify that the return is free of errors. So I'll click on this verify button in a toolbar, and a list of our errors will be presented to us. We can double click on these, and it'll send us straight to the form and the field that has the issue. Now let me close this return down, and we'll open up another one that I know will pass verification. So once you clear all the errors, you'll get the successful message to let you know that everything is complete and we're ready to print the tax return. Since we're ready to print, we'll click on the print button at the very top, and we can print from here. Additionally, if you want to create a PDF, that can be done at the bottom here. And check marking this box will encrypt the PDF so you can send it via email. Next, we want to transmit the tax return to the IRS. And transmitting a tax return is a two-step process. The first step is queuing the return for transmission. So we can see here we're queuing this federal return for transmission. So we'll send it to the queue. The return will close down, and if we look at the work in progress and get ready to transmit, there's our tax returns. And if we look at the filter button, we can see there's our return getting ready to go. If we don't want to send the tax return, we can unmark it and click OK, and that return will be prevented from going to the IRS with this transmission. Once we're ready to transmit to the IRS, we can click the transmit button at the bottom, and away it goes. Now let's go back into a tax return, and I want to show you a few more tools that may be of value to you. So let's open up a tax return. Now, if we want to prevent the tax return from transmitting to the IRS, we can use what's called a bookmark. On any field in the return, you can right-click to get a menu, and in this menu is bookmark. So we can enter any kind of note. We'll click OK. And notice over here in the attached forms list we have our bookmarks now. If we want to see that bookmark again, we can double click on bookmarks. There it is. If we want to delete it, just simply click delete, and now we can transmit the tax return. Another great tool is Prepare Notes. The nice thing about Prepare Notes is they're the first thing you see when you open the tax return, and they performa into next year. So if you have issues with the tax return you want to make sure that other preparers are aware of, then you can enter that as a note, and that'll be the first thing they see when they open the return. And lastly, we have Quick. This lets you status a tax return while you're in another tax return. So you don't have to leave the tax return you're working on in order to get a status. So we can see here, and bank information is entered as well. Now before we leave, here are 3 key items to keep in mind. The design of Crosslink has always used intuitiveness, efficiency, and dependability as principles. That means it's fast, it's accurate, it's dependable, and you control the software rather than letting it control you. Crosslink is a forms-based software, so there's no need to wade through interview questions or menus to complete the tax return. You just add the forms as you need them. And lastly, whenever you need help, look first to the active options section. Line-by-line help is down there, as well as the active option buttons, choices, worksheets, and form links that help you complete the tax return. And with that, I thank you for joining us for our video webcast, Completing a Tax Return in Crosslink 1040. Thanks a lot, and you have a great day.